Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Berny AM126-4K. This watch is available from bernywatch.com for $136. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is protected by this white cardboard outer sleeve one removes. This is the watch box, one removes the lid, and the watch sits in the base on a padded pillow cushion as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping from any damage, and I think it's perfectly acceptable bearing in mind this is a low tier price point piece at only $136. This is the owner's instruction manual. It's translated into multiple foreign languages including English, clear concise diagrams, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. This is the QR code tag that comes to the watch. And lastly, one also gets this suede effect travel pouch, and inside it also has a suede effect panel, and I'll show you what the purpose of that is. One puts the panel in between the case back and also the bracelet and clasp, and that means that when the watch is in the travel case, the bracelet and clasp don't rub against the case back and scuff and scratch it. So good attention to detail, and nice to get the travel pouch included with the watch. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Berny AM126. So this version is the AM126-4K. They've custom printed the dial and also used mill-sub sword hands and also custom engraved the case back with my channel logo WR4K. So Berny sell the AM126 in a plethora of options. You can choose the bezel insert colour, the dial colour. You can have a sterile dial, Berny branded dial, or alternatively your own logo printed as per my WR4K logo, and of course this version, which is the AM126-4K, the WR4K version. You can also choose the bezel. It can be gold or it can be silver, and also match the crown, gold or silver. So really there are limitless options to the customization. Lastly, you can also choose the handset. For example, you can have Mercedes hands or the mill-sub swords hands you're looking at here. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 40mm case diameter. We have a 48mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 12.8mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the flip lock clasp. As you can see, the flip lock clasp is sterile, it's unsigned. I'd prefer if it was engraved with WR4K or alternatively Berny. So I think that they've made a cost-cutting measure here, and really I would like to see some improvement on that. The other thing is the proportions of the clasp are short. It's shorter than the clasp on a PD1661, for example, and I think they should use a slightly longer clasp because it is noticeable it does look like it's too short. With regards to the finishing, beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel to the body of the clasp, and that complements the mirror polishing to the flanks. No sharp edges, no burrs, and there aren't sharp corners either, so it's well executed. I'll show you the interior. Mirror polish, top side, underside and flanks to the solid milled 316L grade stainless steel clasp. Now with regards to the finishing, you can see there are some ripples in the mirror polishing, so there is room for improvement with regards to the quality of the finishing to the 316L grade stainless steel before they mirror polish it, because as you can see, one can see the ripples in the mirror polishing. Now the other negative to this is there is no 5mm EasyLink style extension. We simply have 3 micro adjustment holes. There's 3 dimples on either side on the interior of the body for micro adjustment, and there's also no glide lock style mechanism. So I would like to see a longer clasp used with a 5mm EasyLink style extension as per the PD1661, or alternatively I would like to see a glide lock style clasp implemented because that would further enhance the piece. Now the other negative is the bracelet uses push pins as a cost-cutting measure rather than using 1.6mm screw pins, and this is a real disappointment for the watch because at a similar price point, this is $136. One can purchase a PD1661 and that uses 1.6mm screw pins, which are superior. Now the bracelet is poor quality. If you look at the end link, you can see there is lateral side-to-side play and also up and down side-to-side play in the end link, and that's a disappointment. And all of the links in the oyster style bracelet have lots of play. and it's a real shame because had they used 1.6mm screw pins, that would have tightened up the links. But the problem with using split pins in the oyster style bracelet links is that it means that there's a lot of play. It's a very sloppy bracelet, both laterally and also longitudinally, and it rattles when on wrist. Now, the other negative is if you look at the end links, the male end links don't perfectly fit the profile to the case, and it's a shame because they're not well machined. This one actually has a mark on it, which is wholly unacceptable for a brand new watch. And I'll just show you the other side for comparison. You can see the profile of the male end link doesn't match the profile of the case. There's actually a step between the end link and the case. So again, there's room for improvement with regards to the finishing, the quality control and the build quality of the end links. And on this side of the bracelet, we have the same problem. There is significant lateral side-side play, up and down play and longitudinal play in every one of the links, so it rattles. Now, with regards to the bezel, it's 120 click unidirectional bezel as one would expect. So let's test the bezel action. It feels smooth all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. Nice loud audible clicks. However, we do have some lateral side-side play. We also have one click of back play, which is wholly unacceptable. It feels similar in terms of quality to the PD1661 120 click unidirectional bezels, because we've got the same characteristic problem that Pagani designed PD1661s have. As you can see, one click of back play and also lateral side play. So let's check the alignment. Now, on a positive note, the Loom Pippin triangle does align correctly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So the alignment is correct, but however, the lateral side play and the back play is unacceptable, and therefore there is room for improvement. With regards to the finishing, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, and the scallops are finished to a good standard. Mirror polishing is also done to a good standard, no sharp edges to the teeth. So the bezel itself is finished to a good standard, although the bezel execution in terms of the ratcheting mechanism, there is room for improvement. The ceramic bezel insert is well executed, inlaid with white paint. The minute ticks and the Arabic numerals are inlaid to a high standard, and the quality of the ceramic polishing is good. It's got a nice black glossy finish to it. So the ceramic bezel insert and the stainless steel bezel are good quality. They just need to improve the mechanism. With regards to the dial, it's matte white, and we have silver applied indices with the classic Rolex maxi dial layout, although the indices are smaller than the maxi dial size. The date complication isn't framed. We have the white date wheel with black Arabic numerals, which is clearly legible. I like the use of the silver mirror polished mill sub sword hands. They make a refreshing change from using Mercedes hands. The proportions of the hands are good. The minute hand extends to nearly the minute ticks, and also the arrowhead tip to the second hand also nearly extends to the minute ticks. They could make them slightly longer to get them perfect, but in terms of proportion, the mill sub style hour hand is correctly proportioned and it balances the minute hand. So I think they could scale up the proportions of the hands slightly and lengthen the hands, but however they are acceptable. They've done a good job of printing my WR4K logo at 12 o'clock, and also the quality of the printing of the text, automatic 200 meters equals 660 feet at 6 o'clock, is also done to a good standard. So they do custom print the dials to a good standard, and the quality of the applied indices are also finished to a good standard as well. So with regards to the crown, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, mirror polished dome cap, and it's sterile. One has to expect some cost cutting measures at this price point, so it's not engraved with a Berny brand logo, and of course it's not engraved with WR4K either. Let's test the screw down crown execution. It feels smooth, but it's not as smooth as a PD1661, and I think there's room for improvement in the machining of the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. They could make it smoother. I think the Pagani design PD1661 screw down crown is more smooth. This one has more friction, so it's not as good. So in the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the NH35A automatic to top it up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. Absolute pleasure to manually wind it. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication, and rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quick set complication. As you can see, nice positive click, and I like the feeling of it. It's a characteristic of the NH35A. It's got a nice positive quick set complication. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. As you can see, I've now hacked the second hand and stopped it dead, so one can set the time precisely to the second. So we're now in the time setting position, no back play clockwise and anti-clockwise. It feels very smooth, and I like the firm resistance of the NH35A. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup, but again it's not as smooth as a 1661, and therefore I think there's room for improvement on the quality control and the build quality of the screw down crown, and also the threading on the stainless steel crown tube. The screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, which is perfectly acceptable. Right, so I'll show you the case back. It's perfectly flat, and as you can see, it's very well finished. Concentric CNC lathe tool machining. It does a nice job of refracting the light, very aesthetically pleasing. The milled slots are well finished, no sharp edges, no burrs, and as you can see, it's perfectly flat. Now, one can have a sterile case back, or one can have it engraved with Berny and the reference number of the piece, AM126. Or alternatively, they will custom engrave your own logo, and as you can see, they have done a good job of engraving my WR4K channel logo. So I like the engraving and also like the finishing to it. It is a very nice low profile case back, and it fits very flat against the wrist, so very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. The solid end links are a good tight fit to the case, and they are finished to an acceptable standard, as is the underside to the case. No sharp edges to the underside of the flanks. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I have sized the bracelet because it does come with a lot of links. It actually comes with 14 links. The standard for oyster style bracelets is 13. They usually have 5 on one side and 7 on the other side. This one actually had an extra link, so I removed one link, and as you can see, it now fits my wrist correctly. I like to size my bracelets loose so that I can fit an index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. So 20 to 16 is the correct taper. It's just a shame they didn't make the flip block clasp slightly longer as per the PD1661. It would look better proportioned if they had lengthened it. It does look too short. But however, the bracelet does feel very comfortable, although it's a shame that it rattles because we have a lot of play in every one of the links, as I've detailed. So 40mm head of the piece is well balanced by the 20mm lug width, and we've got the perfect lug to lug measurement of 48mm. So this will fit your wrist regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. I like the flat sapphire crystal, but however the negative is there is no AR coating on the underside, which is a clear cost-cutting measure. This piece really does need AR coating, because the silver mirror polished applied indices and silver mirror polished mill sub style hands are highly reflective, and they don't contrast very well with a matte white dial. They would contrast better if it had black indices and also black mill sub hands. So really it does need clear AR coating, and as you can see, it is highly reflective and very glossy, and it's a shame that they've used that cost-cutting measure. I would really prefer if they had used clear AR coating. The legibility is good, functionality is good, and also the feel-good factor. It's a comfortable piece to wear, but the thing to note is it is heavy for a 40mm piece on the oyster style bracelet. This is 159 grams, and that is with me removing one of the links in the bracelet. I consider circa 150 grams to be the sweet spot for a 40mm head of the piece on a bracelet. At 159 it's slightly heavy, and it does feel slightly top heavy, although the 20mm to 16 oyster style bracelet does balance the 40mm head of the piece very well. So I would like to see a slight reduction in the heft, and that's a surprise because we use split pins rather than screw pins, so one would expect it to be slightly lighter, and also it has a slightly shorter clasp than on the PD1661. So really the heft comes from the head of the piece rather than the bracelet, and I would like to see them reduce it by circa 10 grams to get it down to around 150 grams, because that would make it more comfortable. Right, so let's do a loom test and we'll see how the loom performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge this up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it uses C3 Superluminova. Now, there is a slight colour mismatch between the Milsub style hands and also the applied indices. On the dial, on the applied indices, they've clearly used 5 to 6 layers of C3 Superluminova, which is very good because the applied indices are glowing very brightly and they will continue to glow for a good length of time, as one would expect. Good colour match between the Loom pip on the ceramic bezel insert, the applied indices and the hands. They all are C3 Superluminova. But however, looking at the Milsub hands, one can clearly see that this is 2 to 3 layers versus 5 to 6 layers of C3 Superluminova as per the indices. So the Milsub hands aren't glowing as bright as the applied indices, and this really is the difference between 5 to 6 layers and 2 to 3. We've got 5 to 6 layers on the indices, but we've only got 2 to 3 layers on the Milsub hands. And it's a real disappointment because Berny actually worked on this. I worked with him to improve the loom. Initially, the loom looked too off-white. It looked cream on the applied indices, and I suggested to them they needed to make it whiter. They needed to match the colour tone of the loom on the indices with the Milsub hands. So they remixed the C3 Superluminova to make it whiter, and now they got the daylight colour match better. It looks white on the indices and also white on the hands. But unfortunately, the problem with the Milsub hands is it doesn't allow for the same 5 to 6 layers to be applied. The hands aren't as deep as the indices. With the indices, it's easy to apply 5 to 6 layers because they're deeper. But on the hands, you can see it's 2 to 3 layers, and that really is disappointing because, as you can see now, the Milsub hands are fading to nothing very quickly. So I'm very disappointed with the performance of the loom on the hands, but I am very pleased with the performance on the indices. It's good. So room for improvements on the hands, but the indices are very good. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko NH35A Automatic. It has 24 joules, hand winding and hacking, which is useful complications. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. The stated accuracy of the NH35A is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so a rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Berny are well regulating the NH35As they're using. This one is running consistently at +8 seconds per day, which is well within the -20 to +40 stated accuracy. +8 from a 35A is perfectly acceptable, and I think it's good enough. So I would prefer they also offer this in a no-date version with the date complication deleted and offer it with a 38, but they've made the correct choice by using the 35A for this date version. I like the dial, it's well balanced because the date complication balances the 9 o'clock index on the dial, and also like they've chosen to use a flat sapphire crystal rather than using a Cyclops magnifier. Now, I think that overall the 35A is a good choice for this piece, and I like the fact it's reliable, it's well proven, and it's a good solid workhorse movement. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So $136 is the price point of this piece. I'm going to declare it poor quality and poor value. Overall, this is a disappointing piece. I'm very disappointed with the bezel execution because we have lateral side play and also back play, which are QC issues. The crown isn't as smooth as one would expect, and there's room for improvement with it. Most disappointingly, we've got the weak performance of the C3 Superluminova on the Milsub hands, as I demonstrated in the Loom Test. And also, we've got the QC issue of the play in the end links, as you can see, and also the rattling bracelet, because we've got play both longitudinally, laterally, and also up and down play in every one of the links, and the cost-cutting measure of split pins rather than using solid 1.6mm screw pins in the bracelet. There's no Easy Link style extension, no glide lock style clasp, and the clasp is undersized. It's too short in proportion. So overall, it's a very disappointing piece, and I think there are too many QC issues and too many build quality disappointments, so I can't recommend it to you for your consideration. I really think that Berny needs to improve upon several aspects of this piece, and then I could upgrade it from being poor quality and poor value to good quality and good value. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Berny AM126-4K. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.